At my graduation ceremony, while everyone clapped and my mother dabbed her eyes like she was proud of me, I quietly transferred my entire $5 million inheritance from my grandfather into a trust under my name. My father was smiling in the third row. My brother was already texting someone, probably about money he thought I owed him. I signed with one thumb under my black gown, then looked up like nothing had happened. The next morning, they came to my apartment with champagne, house listings, and a plan for my future. But the cruelest part was not what they asked for. It was why. Before I dive into the story, hit like and drop a comment telling me where you're listening from. Let me know if you've ever had family treat your future like it belonged to them. Because reading your advice might be the thing that reminds me I'm not alone. People always thought my family had money because we knew how to look like we had money. My mother, Celeste, could make a grocery store cake look like it came from a private bakery if she put it on the right glass stand. My father, Martin, owned 3 navy suits, all tailored just enough to make people assume he was doing better than he was. And my brother, Connor, had the strange gift of walking into any room like a man who had already made his first million, even though most of his business meetings ended with someone else paying the check. From the outside, we were polished. Thanksgiving table set by noon, matching Christmas stockings, family photos where everyone leaned in close, even if nobody had spoken kindly to each other all morning. But inside that house, love came with quiet invoices. If my parents paid for something, they remembered it. If Connor failed, we all had to call it a learning experience. If I succeeded, it somehow became proof that the family had invested well in me, even when they had not. My grandfather, Arthur, was the only one who never made me feel like I owed him for being loved. He lived in Evanston, in an old house that always smelled like cedar, coffee, and the peppermint candies he kept in a blue dish near the door. He had built his financial advisory business from a rented office and a folding chair, but he never talked about money like it was something sacred. He talked about it like a fence. A fence does not mean you hate your neighbors, he told me once, while we sat at his kitchen table sorting through old receipts. It means you know where your yard ends. I was 23 when he called me over on a rainy Thursday evening. The windows in his den were fogged at the edges. A baseball game played low on the radio. He had 2 mugs of tea on the table, but his had gone cold. "Evelyn," he said, "I need you to listen without trying to make me feel better." That was how he told me he was sick, not dramatically, not with trembling hands. Just one sentence, clean and heavy, placed between us like a stone. I remember staring at the steam rising from my cup because looking at his face felt impossible. Then he said something even harder. "I am leaving my personal estate to you. I thought I had heard him wrong." He raised one hand before I could speak. "Not because you are my favorite, because you are the only one who will not confuse help with rescue." Over the next year, he and his attorney, Miriam, built the trust quietly, around $5 million, under my name, protected by rules strict enough that even I could not use it carelessly for family demands without paying a serious penalty. Before he died, he gave me one sealed letter. "Open it only when the trust is funded," he said. I did not know then that the letter would describe the next morning almost perfectly. My grandfather died the following spring, on a night so still I could hear the refrigerator humming outside his room. At the memorial, my father shook every hand like he was hosting a business luncheon. My mother kept touching the pearls at her throat. Connor stood near the back, scrolling, waiting for the part everyone pretends not to think about. The will reading happened in a downtown law office with gray carpet and coffee that tasted burned. Miriam read slowly. Arthur had left my father a share of the family business through a separate arrangement. He had left my mother a few heirlooms. Connor got an old watch and a car my grandfather had loved. Then Miriam looked at me. "The remaining personal estate will be held in the Evelyn Hart Trust." My mother's face changed first. Not anger, not yet. Something sharper. Like I had taken her seat at a table she believed belonged to her. Connor leaned forward. How much? Miriam did not blink. Approximately $5 million. The room went silent except for the air vent clicking above us. My father turned toward me. "You knew I nodded once." Connor laughed without humor. So that's what all those quiet little visits were. I didn't manipulate him, I said. My mother folded her hands until her knuckles went pale. Sweetheart. No one said that, but her eyes did. For the next year. They rarely asked for money directly. That would have been too honest. My mother sent articles about daughters who honored their parents. My father emailed investment plans with subject lines like family strategy and long-term growth. Connor texted screenshots of app ideas, anything that made his need sound like opportunity. Every time, I gave the same answer. The trust has limits, and every time, they heard something else. Evelyn has money, and she is choosing not to share it. By graduation week, the pressure had turned polite again, which scared me more than anger. My mother wanted pictures. My father wanted dinner. Connor wanted to catch up soon. During the ceremony, Miriam's secure message came through. Funding complete, final confirmation required. I signed under my gown while the crowd cheered for someone else. For one clean second, I felt safe. Then, the next morning, my doorbell rang before my coffee had cooled. Through the peephole, I saw my parents, my brother, a realtor, a designer, champagne, and a folder thick enough to hold an entire life. And I knew this was not a misunderstanding. It was a plan. I did not open the door right away. I stood there barefoot on the cold kitchen tile, one hand wrapped around my coffee mug, watching their shapes blur through the peephole. My mother adjusted her hair. My father checked his watch. Connor shifted from one foot to the other like he was already annoyed I was taking too long to give him something. That was when I remembered the letter. It was still in my desk drawer, sealed in my grandfather's careful handwriting. My name on the front, Evelyn. Nothing else. My fingers shook when I opened it. Dear Evelyn, if you are reading this, the trust is funded, and they have probably started. I stopped breathing. He wrote that my parents would come with plans before they came with questions. My father would call it strategy. My mother would call it guidance. Connor would call it a chance. All three would call it family. Then came the line that split me open. Guilt will be their softest voice and their sharpest knife. I sat down on the edge of my chair. For a second, I was not a financial professional with a trust under my name. I was a little girl again, trying to earn warmth at a dinner table where praise always went to Connor first. I remembered my mother smoothing his hair before school pictures and telling me to stand closer. I remembered my father clapping Connor on the back for trying again, while my straight A's got a distracted smile. The doorbell rang again. This time, longer. My grandfather's letter ended with one more truth. You are allowed to protect what I trusted you to carry. I folded the pages slowly. My tears had already dried before they reached my chin. Then I opened my phone and reread the trust limits. No casual family distributions, no business bailouts, no personal debts. Any improper payout would trigger years of penalties against me. Arthur had not just left me money. He had left me a locked door and the key to keep it locked. I put the letter back in the drawer, wiped my face, and walked to the door. I did not know which one of them would speak first, but I knew the last word would be mine. When I opened the door, my mother smiled like she had rehearsed it in the elevator. "Good morning, sweetheart," she said, lifting the champagne bottle just high enough for me to see the gold foil. We wanted to celebrate properly. It was not even 9. My father stepped in before I invited him. That was the first thing I noticed. Not the realtor behind him, not the woman with the leather sample case, not Connor's restless face. My father crossed my threshold like he had paid the rent. My mother followed, bringing in the smell of expensive perfume and cold morning air. Connor came last, brushing past my shoulder with a muttered, "Finally." I stayed by the open door. The two strangers hovered in the hallway until my mother waved them in like my apartment was already a showroom. "This is Daniel," she said. "He handles beautiful properties in the suburbs. And this is Vivian. She has wonderful taste, very clean, very timeless." Vivian gave me a nervous smile. Daniel held a thick folder against his chest. I looked at my father. "What is this?" He set his own folder on my kitchen counter, right beside my half-finished coffee, a conversation we should have had months ago. Connor dropped onto my sofa without asking. A good conversation, he said, for once. My apartment was not large. A small kitchen, a narrow living room, 2 windows facing another building, a stack of books beside the couch. A laundry basket I had not folded yet. It was mine, and suddenly it felt invaded. My mother started opening cabinets like she was checking a rental before signing papers. Evelyn, honey, this place was fine while you were in school, she said. But now, with your career, with your resources, you need a real home. Daniel took that as his cue. He opened the folder and slid out glossy pages. There's a property I think you'll love, he said. Classic, spacious, close enough to the city. Excellent long-term value, just under $2 million. I stared at the photo of a white house with black shutters and a lawn so perfect it looked fake. I'm not buying a house. My mother laughed softly, the way she did when she wanted to make my words sound childish. You haven't even seen it. I don't need to. My father leaned against the counter. Evelyn, real estate is one of the smartest moves you can make right now. Your grandfather would have wanted you to build stability. There it was, his name, used like a key they thought would open me. My grandfather already built stability, I said. It is called the trust. Connor sat forward. Right, about that. He pulled out his phone. Of course he did. His whole life could be reduced to a screen full of ideas nobody had funded yet. I've been developing something solid, he said. Not like before. This one is real. I've got a developer lined up, early projections, a marketing plan. I only need around $250,000 to get it moving. Only. The word hit the room and sat there. I looked at him, only he frowned. Don't do that. Do what act like I'm begging. My mother turned from the cabinets. He is not begging. He is giving you a chance to be part of something with your brother. I could hear the heat kick on through the wall, a low hum, steady, normal. Everything else in the room had gone sharp. My father opened his folder now. Charts, notes, printed pages, payments, bills, projections, categories with neat headings. I also put together a broader plan, he said. Nothing extreme. Some family investments, some debt restructuring. A way to make sure this money supports more than just one person. I almost smiled, not because it was funny, because my grandfather had predicted the exact shape of it. My father with charts, my mother with a house, Connor with a dream. I walked to the counter and placed my palm on his folder. Who gave you permission to make a plan for my money? The room changed. Daniel looked down at his shoes. Vivian closed her sample case halfway. My father's jaw tightened. We are your family. That was not my question. My mother's eyes narrowed. Do not speak to your father like that. I turned to her. Then tell me who gave you permission to bring strangers into my apartment to pressure me into buying a house I never asked for. Her mouth opened, then shut. Connor stood. This is insane. You're acting like we broke in. You showed up with a realtor, a designer, champagne, and spending plans the morning after my trust was funded. My mother went still. My father's eyes flicked toward her, quick and guilty. So they had known. Maybe not every rule, maybe not every detail, but enough. I felt something inside me harden into place. You were waiting, I said. Nobody answered. Connor threw up his hands. Of course we were waiting. Grandpa left you $5 million. $5 million! Evelyn. And we're supposed to pretend that doesn't affect the whole family. It affects me. It should affect all of us. No, I said. That is the part you keep getting wrong. My father pushed off the counter. You are young. You are emotional. You have never managed this level of responsibility. I manage financial risk for a living. For clients, he snapped. This is family, and that is exactly why the rules are stricter. I opened the drawer, took out the printed summary Miriam had given me, and set it on the counter. The trust allows distributions for specific purposes: education, health, approved investments, documented assets. It does not allow casual family payouts, business bailouts, personal debts, or lifestyle support. If I misuse it, I trigger penalties against my own access for years. Connor scoffed. Convenient. Yes, I said. It is. Grandpa made sure it would be. My mother's voice softened. That was worse than yelling. Evelyn, baby! We raised you. We went without so you could have more. I looked at her hands, perfectly manicured around the champagne bottle. No, Mom. Grandpa paid for most of my education. I worked, I saved, and every time Connor failed, you called it courage. Every time I succeeded, you called it expected. Her face flushed. That is cruel. What is cruel? I said. Is coming here with a house picked out before asking me whether I wanted one. Connor pointed at me. You always do this. You act better than everyone because you got good grades and Grandpa liked you. Grandpa trusted me. He screwed the rest of us. My voice dropped. Do not say that in my home. He laughed. But there was fear in it now. Your home. This little box, yes, I said. Mine. That is why you are all leaving it. My father stepped between us, trying to take control again. Enough. We are not leaving until we discuss this like adults. Then let's discuss it. I picked up Connor's phone from the sofa where he had tossed it beside his proposal and handed it back to him. You have borrowed close to $100,000 from this family and paid back none of it. Not the food delivery idea, not the trading app, not the rental service. Each time, you called it temporary. Each time, Mom and Dad absorbed the bills. Connor's face went red. You don't know anything about business. I know the difference between investment and rescue. I turned to my father. You have spent years advising other people to diversify, reduce debt, live within their means. But at home, you built a life on image, a house with payments that strain you, vacations you could not comfortably afford, a belief that Grandpa's money would eventually clean it all up. His face drained first, then hardened. My mother whispered, "How dare you?" I looked at her. And you. You did not come here to help me choose a home. You came to choose a stage, a dining room big enough for Thanksgiving photos, a kitchen you could approve, a life you could show people and pretend you helped build. The champagne bottle slipped slightly in her hand. She caught it before it fell. Vivian looked like she wanted to disappear. I turned to her and Daniel. I am sorry you were brought into this. This meeting was arranged without my consent. You can leave now. Daniel closed his folder immediately. Of course. Vivian nodded. I'm sorry. My mother snapped. They are not leaving. Yes? I said. They are? And maybe it was my voice. Maybe it was the way I stood there barefoot in my own kitchen, not shaking anymore. But they left. The door clicked shut behind them. Now it was just blood. My father stared at me like he was seeing someone unfamiliar. You have become cold. No, I said. I have become unavailable. Connor grabbed his jacket. Enjoy being rich and alone. I looked at him and felt the sentence land exactly where he meant it to. Then I let it fall to the floor. I would rather be alone than purchased. My mother's eyes shone, but the tears did not move me the way they used to. One day, she said, you will need us. Maybe, I said. And if that day comes, I hope you show up with love. Not folders. My father picked up his plan. His hands were not steady now. This is not over. I walked to the door and opened it. It is over for the money. No one moved. So I said the words slowly, clearly, so there would be no family translation later. No loans, no investments, no bailouts, no exceptions. The trust is not a family account, and I am not the emergency fund for choices I did not make. Connor left first, slamming his shoulder against the doorframe. My mother followed, still holding the unopened champagne. My father paused at the threshold. For 1 second, I thought he might say something human. Instead, he said, "Your grandfather made a mistake." I looked him straight in the eye. "No," I said. "He made a plan." Then I closed the door. A minute later, my phone buzzed, a text from my mother. "You made your choice." I read it twice, waiting for the old guilt to rise in my chest. It did not, for the first time in my life. The silence after my family left did not feel like punishment. It felt like freedom. After that morning, they did not stop. They just changed the shape of the pressure. My mother sent me articles about forgiveness, gratitude, and daughters who remembered where they came from. She never wrote much with them, just a sentence or two. Thought you should read this. This reminded me of us. I deleted most of them before the preview finished loading. Connor started smaller. $10 here, $40 there, little payment requests with jokes attached, like he was testing a locked door with one finger. Coffee fund, don't be dramatic. You can spare it. I ignored everyone. My father stayed quiet the longest, which made me uneasy. Then the emails began again. Not emotional, not angry, just clean. Professional documents about investments, debt restructuring, family planning, bills that could be simplified, payments that could be stabilized. He still thought if he made control sound responsible. I might hand it over. I did not. I went to work. I built models. I sat through meetings under bright office lights with coffee gone cold beside my laptop. I bought a small condo in Chicago through the trust, properly documented, with every rule followed. I paid fair rent back into the trust because that was how Arthur had designed it. The condo had morning light, plain white walls, and windows that looked over the city instead of somebody else's expectations. For the first time, I chose furniture without hearing my mother's voice in my head. Then Connor got engaged. He called after more than 6 months of silence and talked for 4 minutes before finally saying the number, around 75,000, for the wedding. As my sister, he said, I thought you would want to help. I do want to help, I told him. Have a wedding you can afford. He hung up. Months later, my mother called. Their house was becoming too expensive. They needed around 100,000 to get breathing room. I told her to downsize. She called me a terrible daughter. This time, I did not cry. Then, after months of nothing, a letter came from my father, handwritten, uneven, no charts, no numbers. He said he was sorry for bringing strangers into my home. Sorry for treating my inheritance like family property. Sorry for seeing my boundary as betrayal. He did not ask for money. He asked for coffee. We met the next Saturday at a small coffee shop in Evanston. My father looked older without a folder in his hands. We talked about work first, then the weather, then a book Arthur used to keep on his desk. It was awkward, but it was real. Before we left, I told him the rule. If we rebuild this, Dad, the trust stays out of it. He nodded. I understand. Maybe he did. Maybe he was learning. My mother and Connor still have not reached out. I do not know if they ever will, but I no longer mistake their silence for proof that I did something wrong. Family does not mean surrender. Love does not mean funding. And boundaries do not make you cruel. They keep you whole. If you have ever had to protect your future from the people who claimed to love you, tell me your story in the comments. Hit subscribe so you do not miss the next one.